On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. If I have to admit it myself, I got a pretty good show put together for today. We've got a lot of good information that's worth covering. And of course, Crybaby Trudeau is, it's kind of an embarrassment to his own country. And again, this is all part of the process. Canadians, you guys are strong and tough. You live in a cold place. You punch moose for a living. I get it. I don't know what's going on with your little sissy boy guy here. He probably never played hockey. That's my guess. Might have been more of an indoor kind of guy. Maybe he was into, stitching or whatever. I'd say cooking, but I like to cook, so I don't want to necessarily fall on that sword. I think it's enjoyable. Kind of an explanation for people like me. And I think maybe many of you out there, hopefully, can find the same. But I thought this was a beautiful kind of symbolism. Yin and yang, or yin and yang, as some might say. The concept of peace, purity, is something that is always balanced. Jesus flipped over the tables, right, for the money changers. The concept of turning the other cheek is really one that is important, but at the same time is not eternal. You don't just continue to do that. You don't just continue to give the shirt off your back. There's a point where at some time you have to go the other direction. So love and light, I pour it brilliantly all the time, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The darkest and most evil people on this planet, I would even say the devil himself, or herself, I don't know. The only way to heal them, and many would say they're irredeemable, which I think is very non-Christian or very non-Christ-like, in my opinion, but that's my opinion. But the only way to heal these things is with love. Love and light. So if there's something that does exist in this world, and it's interesting, in this world, this is a world where there are polar opposites. There's a good and a bad, a left and a right, an up and a down. Everything is in relation to another thing. You don't know what hot is unless you understand cold, and vice versa. They mean something in relation to each other, not by themselves. It's like the color blue doesn't necessarily mean anything unless you kind of put it in kind of perspective of everything else, all the other colors. So it's important for us to understand that there's always that place for love and light, but at the same time, buck around, you will find out. And there's many memes that go around right now talking about how, most of us are just people that wanted to be left alone. And you insisted on dragging us into your mess. And now we're involved. And we will fix this. That's what's happening. Many of us are conscious of our efforts and conscious of how we play a role. Some of us aren't as much. It's kind of entertaining to watch the differences, frankly, but we are going through this together. And again, as I've said before, I'm so glad you're a part of this with me. Thank you. You make it doable. Your ripples are extremely important. Now, being cruel for no reason is also not a good way to go. We've seen a lot of that too. So I don't want to spend huge more time on this, but yeah, important stuff. Now, something that was brought up, and I got to give Tori Says big kudos on this one. I would never have thought this in a million years. I haven't seen it. This is the only place it kind of popped into my little world. And I was just like, damn, I think you're right. So SCOTUS Gate, they're talking about in this little article, but SCOTUS Gate will not be about the First or Second Amendment. It will be about the 9th and 10th. Remember that. It's not a Constitution decoder, gang. It was written so we can read it. We the people. Read the 9th and 10th Amendment. The buck stops at 10. This is very important. And for those of you that are familiar, kudos. For those of you that aren't, we're literally going to read 2 sentences. 3, I think, if I remember correctly. 9th Amendment. It's an amendment that provides people with rights not specifically mentioned in the United States Constitution, meaning if it's not specifically mentioned and we did not specifically give these rights to government, then they belong to you, fair citizen. That's the 9th Amendment in a nutshell. I'm sure historians might argue parts of that, the simplicity, whatever. The 10th Amendment, an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that grants only the powers specified in the Constitution to the federal government. This amendment reserves all other powers to the states and the people. This will be key because this is where government overreach has definitely happened. they have overreached. They have tried to assume responsibilities or rights or roles that aren't spelled out for them, that they've spelled out for themselves. It's a huge part of this whole transformation that we're going through. Now, I've got a couple great examples, one of them slightly long, but I think worth it, of Democrats waking up. And I want to rejoice. I want this to be a happy moment. Again, I don't want people to get hung up on whether or not they're Republican or independent. I believe this lady I'm sharing next will be independent, and again, I am too. And please still love us, even though we don't want to have an R or a D next to our name. It's okay. We're on the side of humanity. And I think ultimately that's kind of what's super important. It's also important to have people that aren't necessarily in the same little clique. But Matt Van Swole, he said, "This morning I woke up to see I was followed by libs of TikTok. If me 1 year ago saw me now, he wouldn't recognize me at all. A year ago, I thought libs of TikTok was a bigot and a racist. I was unknowingly trapped inside a media ecosystem that told me what to believe and how to think. I repeated these same lines to others too, without any research of my own. I walked around believing I was morally superior, that I had the truth and the experts on my side. I was wrong. I didn't see it until Hurricane Helene hit us in western North Carolina. I didn't see it until I watched the entire media ecosystem I trusted ignore us while we were screaming for help. It was so shocking, so unbelievable. Some days I questioned my own reality. I never thought the media I knew and trusted would turn on me like that. And for what? An election? For politics? Surely not. Surely people suffering would overrule any political decision these media outlets would make, right? No, it was all a lie. Everything I thought and knew that the media, about politics, it crashed to the ground and shattered. I got on X, and for the first time I started seeing the truth. I started sharing my own reality in western North Carolina. Honestly, I owe so many people on the right so many apologies. Once you break out of the bubble, once you see the media turn on you, once you see the entire apparatus is set up to point you in one direction like a wind-up toy soldier, you cannot unsee it. Thank you, fellow libs of TikTok. This is kind of why I don't believe in black pills, because once you're awake, there's no going back to sleep. If you're not actually awake and you just happen to be a Republican, yeah, black pills might happen, but that's sort of a different thing. You're still not really awake yet, so This lady cusses a bunch, and I love it. And for those of you that are sensitive to cussing, you might want to skip past this. But I think she says it beautifully, admirably. Again, another individual on the left that is a little disenchanted. And disenchanted for the right reasons, the reasons I've been talking about for the past couple days. Not that that makes it better, but it seemed more fitting.
Where do we start today, people? You guys are fired up. It's been hard to stay focused this morning because I've been going through all of your posts and you were fired up. I'll tell you this. If you are on the side where you wake up and Stephen Colbert is making fun of the Democrats, he went online and went to talk about, I really appreciated how the Democrats were holding up in protest at the address last night with their little paddles. He said, I wasn't sure if they were making a message or if they were bidding at an antique auction. And he said, I made my own paddle. I made my own message. And he held it up and it said, do something. That is the point. If you as a Democrat, if you as a liberal do not like what you see and you do not like what is going on, get up and do something about it. But here's where we're going to go. We're going to get right into this because I'm telling you what, this is where you lose me. This is where you lost me. I am an independent. I don't lean right. I don't lean left. I lean people. I vote people over party. And there's a reason that I do this. And so here's where you lost me and here's where you lose the people, Democrats. And here's why you keep losing these elections. This is why. You had 3 opportunities to stand up for Americans that had suffered in this country and you sat your asses down. Give me a break. Let's just start with DJ, the 10-year-old with cancer, who fought it, who beat it, and who has a passion and a desire to be a police officer. He was made an honorary Secret Service agent. It was one of the most heartwarming things I had ever seen. I couldn't contain myself. I couldn't help but crying. And to see a Secret Service man who by definition is just all hands off, right? We don't hug them, we don't touch them, we don't even get in their personal space. Literally lost it and embraced this little boy. Not one Democrat stood up. Not one. Not one. I'm so done with you people. Then you have Laken Riley's family. This woman was raped, murdered, and beat to shit dead. That's the facts and the reality of it. By 2 illegal Venezuelans. No, I'm sorry, 1. It was the other girl that was beat by 2 illegal Venezuelans. This one was it? Jose Ibarra came into this country illegally and was allowed into this country illegally. And he took the life of a young American nursing student. Why are you mad about this woman? You stand up for women's rights and you're not mad? You're not angry? You sit your ass down and you sit there because you're so pissed off at Trump? What the f*** is wrong with you? And then you have the family for Jocelyn Nunegray. 12 years old. My son is 12. Come at me. I'll cut you. 12 years old. Her life is over because of Venezuelan immigrants that came into this country. They raped her. They murdered her. He dedicated a refuge to her because she has a passion for nature. And you assholes sat down. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You're on the wrong side of humanity. It's not about what side of the aisle you're on. You're on the wrong side of humanity. I don't give a shit about policy. I don't care about Ukraine right now. I don't care about the war. I don't care about the billions that we sent. 3 American children were being honored last night and you sat the down. I'm not okay with you. We are not the same. And if you want to unfollow me, go right the ahead. Go ahead. But if you are just as angry and you are just as pissed off as I am right now and you have had enough, follow the button. Let's be a community and let's start continuously speaking up because I am disgusted as an American. I have watched people sitting here going, I stand with Ukraine. Do so. Do so. I don't give a shit. You can stand with whatever country that you want. But if you are here in this country and you consider yourself a citizen, you also stand for the Americans. Nobody says you can't stand with or for Zelensky, whoever, whatever you want to do it. You'll never hear me say that you can't and shouldn't. But shame on you, you pieces of, for sitting down at the acknowledgement of those 3 children. You make me sick. You're a different kind of level of evil that I want no part of. And I'm telling you, you're guaranteeing a continual Republican ticket by doing this. Your hate for him should never supersede honoring Americans, especially those that died at the hands of open borders. What is wrong with you? I can't with any of you. So I'm telling you, get your shit together. Get your shit together because what you're doing is deplorable and disgusting. And I want no part of it. I want no part of it. And I'm ashamed of every single one of you. I'm done with you.
I love that she uses the word deplorable, by the way. I thought that was fantastic. But yeah, maybe a little long, but still, I thought powerful. So limited hangout peddlers are the perfect way to hide the empire while making your target audience believe you're exposing it. One of the things that's going to be hard for many of us is being able to spot the limited hangout people. They will be people that we like. They will be people that we find ourselves drawn to. They will be people that are clickbaity often, and yet we still continue to come back for seconds, thirds, fourths, and fifths. Even though we know it's probably going to be clickbait, we still click on it because we're addicted. They have an emotional connection, or they're creating an emotional connection right out of the gate. Something I refuse to do. That's why I could be much bigger than I am, but I intentionally do not do some of those behaviors. I just don't. I don't want to be a part of that. My audience is you guys that wake up, and that's going to grow at the speed it grows, but you guys are who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to a bunch of people that don't get it. I don't have the patience for that, frankly. So self-identifying cutting-edge journalists providing partial or limited expose information is a strategic way to conceal the complete truth or the real details of a situation. Presenting only a portion of the facts with misdirection is a classic tactic to keep certain information hidden. I see it a lot where people are asked questions and they kind of go digging down a path and, oh no, I'll get there, and then they swing it in a different direction entirely. It's just, there's all sorts of fun things that happen with misdirection. I do it accidentally sometimes too with my stupid joking around. I was like reading this and I'm like, you should be better at that. And that's something, I work on trying to improve every day. I definitely joke too much. I've been accused of that my whole life, but at the same time, life's supposed to be fun. That's what we're here for. I wish more people understood that. We're going through crazy times, but there's no reason why we can't have a good time at the same time. Believe it or not, we're going to be okay. I know that. So, let's rock and roll. Let's dance. Let's dance the whole way through, right? Like they're playing that Bee Gees song whenever you start walking. It's, well, I'll do my walk. I'm woman's man. No time to talk. Right? And you just feel like you got to break into a Michael Jackson, grab your crotch every once in a while. I don't know, whatever. Maybe it's just how it manifests in me. Could be different for all of us. Oversight Project posted this. Whoever controlled the auto pen controlled the presidency. This is oddly concerning. So they gathered every document they could find with Biden's signature over the course of his presidency. This is Oversight Project did this. They all used the same auto pen signature except for one thing, the announcement that former president was dropping out of the race last year. So they've got the auto pen signature for a bunch of them, and then here is the one for when he dropped out. This one down here, make it easier for you to see, right? But I want you to be able to see the auto pen signature typically had a larger R. It didn't have this weirdness to it. And the Biden even looks kind of different. And then they got the, junior or whatever the hell that stands for. It's a different signature. The auto pen signature that was used, maybe it was the same person at one point, and since he's lost his friggin' ever-loving mind, who knows if he's even capable. The Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey asked the DOJ to investigate whether Biden's cognitive mental decline allowed unelected officials to make decisions without his knowledge or approval. It says if that's the case, Biden's executive orders, pardons, and other actions may essentially be moot or void. So recall the former President Biden admitted to Speaker Johnson that he did not remember signing the executive order pausing the LNG exports. So who did sign it? For investigators to determine whether then President Biden actually ordered the signature of relevant legal documents, or where do we get the or if it even had the mental capacity to do so, they must first determine who controlled the auto pen and what checks that were in place. For investigators to determine whether then President Biden actually ordered the signature of relevant legal documents, or if they had the mental capacity. Wait, why does I feel like that's the same thing? Maybe it is. It feels like it's duplicated. Oh, it is. So don't forget to check out the pardons and clemencies, right? A lot of stuff. There's a whole bunch of different signatures, it seems. And, some of them seem different. So not everyone. Obviously, some of these were, signed by, the dude himself in crayon. But definitely different signatures. Again, I don't know. I've gotten weird with my signature. It's a strange thing that's happened. It's odd. And I don't know. I think it's because I've become two different people. Honestly, think that's true. Since I'm Dan Radio Style and I'm, Dan, regular Dan. I for some reason feel like I'm in this weird quandary where I'm two people at once. It seems, but the signature is a tough one. I gotta work on it for the Houston trip, which will be coming up too. We'll talk about it because I think there's a story about Houston, but we will be out there doing a live show on the 4th of July, and we'll give information about that here coming up in a little bit. During the final months of the Biden administration, the National Institute of Health awarded $28 million to a mysterious venture-backed company called Vaccine Company, Inc. Very creative name. A biomedical firm founded in 2022 whose chief financial officer happens to be one of former President Joe Biden's top COVID advisors. $28 million went to this National Institute of Health, this venture capital-backed company called Vaccine Company, Inc. Senator Joni Ernst, the September 2024 grant from the NIH's Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health doesn't pass the smell test. Vaccine Company has left virtually no public footprint showing what it has done with the taxpayer funds, which the Biden administration doled out to a seemingly random post office box in Bethesda, Maryland. Ernst urged Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a letter late Tuesday to investigate why the Biden administration awarded millions of taxpayer dollars to this mysterious firm? Yeah, I'd like to get to the bottom of that, too. Hopefully we find out. Here is James Dennehy, the head of the New York field office, suspected of concealing thousands of Epstein documents, being essentially his last day walking out to bagpipes.
An extraordinary scene outside of the New York FBI office in the last hour.
So we don't need to play any more of that, but bagpipes, I kind of thought they were for funerals and stuff, but I'm sure I'm wrong on that. I'm sure they have festive celebrations too, where they use bagpipes. I don't know. You bagpipers out there, kilt wearers, if you will, if you know, let us know. Help us out there. But I thought a lot of the times bagpipes were not necessarily, it's kind of a farewell sort of thing, and maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to pretend to understand it. Nancy Pelosi's her stock wealth has tumbled. This should make all of us happy, and also means she's lost her insight, I think. I don't know if they kicked her off the committee that she was on, where she was leaking information. I think that was the case, and she's no longer got the insight that she once had, nor does anyone. But let's see, back in 2024... here it is. In 2014, she was worth about $123 million. Not too shabby. That went up to about $250 million in 2024. Her portfolio hit an estimated high of about $270 million. Again, well done. However, she just took a big hit. At the end of January, she's down $14.5 million. Oops. Just thought it was kind of interesting, but still worth over $250. Let's just keep that in mind. I got some other fun ones here for you. You may be wondering why Rep. Jasmine Crockett wants to stop Elon Musk and DOGE from exposing government corruption. Her salary, $174,000 a year. Her net worth, $9 million. She's got 3 properties, a $2 million townhouse, a $1.5 million loft, and a $5 million lakefront cabin. That's not too shabby for someone that makes $174,000 a year. What about this? Pelosi, she's worth over $250. I've talked about that. What about Elizabeth Warren? She's worth over $67 million. She seems to be fighting really hard. I'm not going to waste any of our time playing her talking. But Pocahontas is worth quite a bit of money. These are some of the people making some of the biggest noise right now. ActBlue, the Democratic fundraising powerhouse, you've probably heard of them. At least 7 senior officials of that company have left. They're setting off deep concerns about its future as it confronts scrutiny from congressional Republicans. It's almost like they've lost a huge amount of funding. This whole article, who was originally written by the New York Times, so it's left-leaning, of course. But their whole departure is freaking people out. It gets down to the single leader. And this part actually caught me. I found it interesting. Colored me interesting. I don't know, whatever. The unions asked the board to hire an outside counsel to take investigatory actions to better understand the current state of the organization and evaluate if our CEO is doing her job in an appropriate, competent, and responsible manner. ActBlue's chief executive, Regina Wallace-Jones, did not respond to requests for comment. Ms. Hughes, the spokesperson for the group, did not comment on Mr. Ahmed's claims of retaliation or the staff union concerns. If ActBlue were to become severely diminished, Democrats running for office at all levels of government could face setbacks in their efforts to raise cash. Candidates for offices ranging from school boards and city councils to the presidency rely on the platform for their online fundraising, while Republicans have spent years trying to catch up. And while there are some alternative platforms, none have the scale and reach of ActBlue. Now, we know a lot of investigations have gone into ActBlue. We know USAID funding has been cut, which I will guarantee a bunch of that ended up in ActBlue. And they've been funding their own cycles, if you will, election cycles, with taxpayer money. Over 97% of it from somebody I was sharing. I don't remember who it was. 97% of it going to the left, to the blue candidates. While it implies 3% was going to either independents, which would be the case when you think of what's-his-face in the Senate, crazy Bernie Sanders, right? He's independent. So some of it's that. And then there's probably like McConnell and a couple others that are sold out. So ActBlue is scared and might very well be done. which would be incredible and would signify all sorts of positive movement if you think about it. And that was one of the things, too, we were talking about going into the election, is ActBlue was something that they were looking into it. They were seeing that small donations were being made all over the place, probably illegally. And they started kind of digging into it. But it was right before the election, and I kept saying if they shut off the funding, it's going to just destroy them. And I was hoping they'd do it sooner, but it looks like it's happening now. Republican California Rep Kevin Kiley is asking the FBI Director Kash Patel to open an investigation into California's stupid high-speed rail project that is drastically over budget, doesn't really have a lot going on that they can show where they've spent the money. They claim their accounting is perfect. We'd like it to be looked into further. I'd certainly would. I'd love to see it looked into because I know we've wasted a bunch of money and we don't have anything close to what they were promised. I remember we did $1 trillion bond too, which tied into this. I'm wondering where they siphoned the rest of that money off because most of it was, if I remember correctly, was spoken for the high-speed rail. So, yeah, again, a bunch of federal funds have been spent on that. It's not playing out the way they're supposed to, that's for sure. One of the many reasons why I actually got rid of my Capital One card back in the day was because of this. What's in your wallet? It's certainly not Capital One in mine, that's for sure. But this Miami-based attorney representing the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust, they had Capital One kick a bunch of their accounts to the curb. They basically said, look, we're not going to do business accounts with you anymore. They basically got a lawsuit going against these guys, and this happened back in the first quarter of 2021 without any advance warning either, which is a major pain in the ass to have to switch a lot of stuff like that all over the place. Just problematic. So very uncool, and this is, again, part of the attacks that were happening, and this is where he's getting even. His retribution is a lot of these lawsuits that are happening. Rep. Tim Burchett says he is willing to lose his job to tell us the real reason government officials are opposing Elon Musk and DOGE. He says they're going to push back because you've got congressmen on both sides of the aisle. If you follow that paper trail, it's going to come back to them. This is the key problem with USAID, with a lot of the shenanigans happening with taxpayer money, and the way some of it's being funneled back to Republicans too, but certainly Democrats. The way that the stealing's happening, the way that what's going on in Ukraine, Lindsey Graham's got fingerprints all over that. He's going to come clean on it because everybody is guilty. And this is really where the Brunson's case is going to be an interesting kind of case because ultimately at some point we're going to have to consider the possibility that we will literally be firing a huge chunk of our government. Do we just have one giant national election? That's probably what's going to happen. Have some sort of weird, or do we maybe try to wait until 2026 and make it happen right before that election since there's already a mechanism in place? But this is a big deal. And something a lot of people just, we should just fire them all. Easy to say. Very easy to say. Harder to do and deal with because you instantly put the government in total chaos. It's another great example of what somebody was talking about with the Epstein files. If they start talking about it, if we release all the stuff and show all of the dirty people inside of America, American politics for that matter too, that were tied up in this, then America loses credibility across the great world. And can Trump even really afford to do that? Because he can't make up for that. That's the way everybody will see us because of the information coming out. Again, so many people, black and white, it should be released. And I hear you. I don't think you understand what that could actually mean. Now, there are a lot of people that want chaos and pandemonium, and that would result in that. When government breaks down, that's what's going to happen. You will have riots in the streets, and I don't know, to assume the military is going to take over, I don't know. I don't have that much faith, but we'll see. I don't think that's necessarily the future we want to live. We'll see what you guys choose. Ultimately, we'll choose it together. Mexico's going to review China tariff and their potential win for Trump. So Trump's kind of working with them too. He kind of wants to create in Canada as well, but we'll see if Crybaby can handle it or if we actually get a real president up there. But we're wondering if she's going to be able to help. And it seems that she is. There's shoe production and textile production, she says. And then once China kind of got involved and started bringing stuff in, it basically put them out of business when it came to the manufacturing they were doing. So it's hurt her country. So she gets what Trump's trying to do. So she's talking about doing much the same, creating tariffs against China specifically. Now, this is meant to help put China in its place. China's been getting special privileges across this great world, and they're taking advantage of it everywhere. They've been not very good when it comes to reciprocation. They take, they don't give back, and they just want control. It's a CCP. So deep state heavily invested in that. Us fighting back, us is a polar world we've talked about too. So that's going to be Canada, it's going to be Greenland, U.S., obviously Mexico, but certainly Central America and down into South America for sure. President Trump signed an executive order for cryptocurrencies, for all you guys that like that stuff. This should actually give it some stability.
Today we're signing, this is very historic, an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile. This is a promise that you made throughout the campaign, and today we're keeping that promise. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin that the federal government already owns, so it won't cost taxpayers a dime. This is like a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. And premature sales of Bitcoin over the past years cost American taxpayers over $17 billion in lost value because we didn't have a long-term strategy.
Right.
Now we do. So.
And this is something you believe in fully?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole community believes in it.
Very good. And I made the promise, right?
Absolutely.
He said digital gold too, by the way, which I find to be interesting. I don't know if I'm real fond of that personally. We'll see. Stock market was having a tough day earlier on, but it looks like it's kind of recovered a little bit or sort of gone flat. But it is doing a little bit. So yeah, Dow's down a bit. It was up to, didn't it get close to 50? Oh, this is NASDAQ, I'm thinking probably. But whatever. We're seeing the world adjusting. Not so bad. Gold was actually up quite a bit even today. It got up to 29.31, which it's creeping up on 3,000. It's probably going to hit that, I would say, this month, most likely. We'll see how it all plays out, but it's just continuing to move up. Silver was up to 32.77. Nice little jump that it's been doing. So, folks, I've said it many times. The system, the deep state system, is not long for this world. I think, in my mind, one of the easiest ways to protect yourself from that is to transfer as much as you feel comfortable with, diversify or move it out of as much of it as you feel comfortable with from their system into a precious metals system where it's literally like you literally have like physical silver and gold. Now, again, it's in a trust. That's how they do it, tax-free, penalty-free. That's what my good friends at Goldco will help you with. Now, again, here, there's a lot of factors that go into this. There's a lot of transition that's happening in the world. This, something you want to think about. It's something with some moving parts, and moving parts, unfortunately, there's commissions that get paid out through all over this place. Of course, I get a piece of this pie too. Thank you. But drslikesgold.com, it's a way that you can move from their system, tax-free, penalty-free, into a precious metals system. It's literally physical precious metals. They're sitting in a trust. They are yours. You literally could have them sent to you, but that's the equivalent of being paid out. When you get paid out, if it's early, you get penalized and taxed heavily. That's why they move it sideways. I know a lot of people say if you don't have the physical in your hand, then it's not really having it. Well, in the case of your 401k, you don't have the money in your hand either. So it's the same thing that you currently have. But if you need to cash out or even pull back from it, you can even cash it. They got the highest price buyback guarantee from my good friends at Goldco. They've got incredible customer service. They've got all sorts of ratings, and they are multiple suppliers. So they're able to get the best deals on the precious metals they get for you. Like I said, there's a lot of steps in this process of moving from a 401k or IRA into actual precious metals sitting in a trust that belong to you. A lot can do, a lot can happen, but they make it simple. And they've got the best customer service so you can ask all the questions. Go to drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com. Get the 4 data points in there. Make sure you've given that. Make sure you're helping get that for you, frankly, so you can actually get the Ronald Reagan coin. First off, we've got a qualifying 401k. There's also a book they want to send you. We've also got the gold and silver protection, wealth protection kits. that they want to send you. So a lot of good stuff they want to send you. I think I don't know if it's all just simply online. There's a book. Yeah, there must be an app or something too. I think they had a DVD at one point, but I don't think, who watches DVDs anymore? That's just crazy talk. Nah, it's ridiculous. Go to drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com. Get out of that system. I mean, again, they don't buy in all the crazy crap I'm talking about, but they will help you get out of that system. I don't know when and what and how, but the deep state is losing. Deep state's losing ground, and a lot of their companies are tied up in this. It's just an issue of when and what and how it plays out. I would just be very, very cautious if I were you guys, and I was leaving a lot of my eggs, or all of my eggs, in that stock market basket. That's all. I want you to think about it. That's all. I want you to have as much information as possible. What you choose to do with it is up to you. There's been lots of friends of mine that have been helped by this. Lots. And they're way better off for it, and they worry a lot less about it, and especially the ones that did it a couple of years ago are sitting very pretty right now. They're up significantly, up more than stocks. Gold's up 38%. Stocks are up 20%. Well, at least NASDAQ was when I looked. Over the past year. Past year, stocks up 20%. Gold's up 38%. It's a different world. Gold's going to destroy the Fed. It's not going to play out the way the deep state wants it to. That's for sure. drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com. Get out of that system before they get out of you. AFL has fired an amicus brief in New Jersey versus Trump to protect our national security, defend our sovereignty, and support President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. So they're actually fighting this in a very, very cool way. They filed in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit in support of President Trump's executive order 14160, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. The 14th Amendment citizenship clause, properly interpreted, does not automatically confer citizenship to every person born on U.S. soil because it requires individuals to be, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. The U.S. Supreme Court has long recognized national security as a primary government interest. National security implications must be considered in any judicial interpretation of the Citizenship Clause, particularly concerning President Trump's executive order 14160, which seeks to eliminate incentives for unlawful immigration and close loopholes that foreign adversaries can and do exploit. Any judicial action in this case could significantly impact U.S. foreign policy and the executive branch's ability to respond to national security threats. Immigration and citizenship are intrinsically tied to our nation's sovereignty and security, and it is critical to uphold the executive branch's authority to protect our nation and to keep America safe. AFL is proud to support the President Trump's executive order 14160 and will continue fighting to protect American citizenship from foreign adversaries and bad actors. So it's good stuff. Fighting it, doing a good job. So yeah, thank God for these guys that have been literally using their funds, their donations to help fight for our side of the fence. Pretty crazy. John Kerry. Oh, shucks, one of those. Okay, here it is. Yeah. John Kerry systematically derailed FBI probe of Iranian terrorists while pursuing nuclear deal. Literally shut down a whole bunch of investigations we were doing into these terrorists within Iran. And he did this also he could get the nuclear deal signed. The nuclear deal, that was when we gave him the pallets of cash, $2.something billion. And they instantly started spending that on the weapons program, which they now basically have, $1.7 billion, in cash. They now have, we believe, enough fuel to make a few weapons. We're speculating. Oh, so Florida. Alligator down there. So this dude is he signed away all sorts of stuff and screwed us. So Senator Chuck Grassley, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, he released this whistleblower disclosure after lengthy investigations, saying his findings revealed chilling evidence the Obama-Biden administration jeopardized our national security and demoralized the morale of FBI agents who are working to keep Americans safe. We'll find out what more comes from that, but yeah, we're uncovering a lot of the dirt that's happened, especially in the previous administrations, and we are reporting it, and we'll continue to do so. FBI Director Kash Patel posted this. I can now report that today the FBI, along with our interagency partners led by AG Pam Bondi, arrested 2 active duty U.S. Army soldiers and 1 former U.S. Army soldier for theft of government property and a bribery scheme. These individuals have been charged with stealing America's defense intelligence capabilities and empowering adversaries like China in betrayal of our country. They will now face American justice. Now, here is some of the stuff that many of you guys have been waiting for. Here's your Gitmo type stuff. And this is treason to the highest level. You got 2 active duty U.S. Army soldiers. I'm not sure who these people are. They're probably high enough up the food chain to be of concern. That's for sure. President Trump wants to release the reports on the 2 men that tried to assassinate him. Wants to expose this, or he wants to see it himself, too. And, why did this one guy have 6 cell phones? Pretty good. Check out Trump being a little pissed off about the fact he still doesn't know what the hell happened.
It's been 7 months. Why do you think we don't know more about the guy who shot you in the ear?
Yeah, oh, well, and the second one with all of his cell phones. So I want to find the answers. I've told them. In fact, today I said, I want to find, we can no longer blame Biden for that one. He should have released that a long time ago. So they are giving me a report next week sometime, and I do believe I'll be releasing. I want to release the report. A lot of people have asked that question. You had one who had 3 apps, 2 of which were foreign, supposedly, and who has the biggest white shoe law firm in Pennsylvania, even though they don't live in necessarily a white shoe area. What's that all about? His law, the law firm. The other one had 7 or 6 cell phones, and I don't have 6 cell phones. And why would somebody have 6 cell phones? So we're going to be releasing a report on that soon, Peter.
But based on what you're saying right there, the lack of information and the data points that you just gave, does that make you think that there's some part of that there's some bigger?
It could be. Well, it makes other people think that. It makes me think it a little bit too. I say, when you have 3 apps and 2 of them are foreign, and you had an FBI that wouldn't report on it, they didn't want to say why, I would say that could be suspicious. And then on the second assassin, you had, and by the way, I have to tell you, Secret Service did a great job on that by spotting him. But on the second one, he had 6 cell phones. That's a lot of cell phones. And a couple of them had some strange markings on them. So, yeah, I want to find out, and I would be willing to release it. I mean, maybe there's a reason that we shouldn't, so I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis, but yeah, I would be very willing to release that. I'd like to see it. I want to see it myself, Peter. Not only you, I want to see it.
Yeah, he wants to see it too. Crazy stuff going on. President Trump says for the first time in 15 months, the job gains for native-born Americans exceeds foreign-born. That's good stuff.
Came out. Big gains for native-born Americans for the first time in 15 months. The job gains for native-born Americans, for American people born in America, exceeded job gains for migrant and foreign-born workers. This is the first time that's happened in more than 15 months. Employment for native-born workers went up by 284,000, while foreign-born workers went down by 87,000. Now, you've heard the same stat where foreign workers were taking up all the jobs or almost all the jobs. In some cases, literally all of the jobs. And now it's 284,000 native-born jobs here, people born in our country, 284,000, while foreign-born workers went down by 87,000. First time that's happened in a long time. So these are incredible numbers, and they're very early. I mean, we're here for 5 weeks, but we have been talking about it since the big win in November.
Yeah, a big win for sure. Again, it's funny when we take credit and when we don't, but whatever. It's still pretty early on in the administration. Among the executive orders President Trump signed today, one was one that held individuals accountable for costs incurred when they challenge his policies in court and they lose.
Injunction bonds whenever someone tries to challenge our policies in court, so that when they end up losing in court, and we believe that they will end up losing in court, that they can be held financially responsible for the disruption to federal activities that their actions have caused.
Right. Something they've wanted to do a long time, right? They've been looking to do this for years,
Yes, sir.
and why they just never got it.
This is a rule that's been on the books for a very long time. The Department of Justice has been very inconsistent in seeking these bonds.
From a legal standpoint, really a very big thing.
Injunction.
Here's the problem. I mean, in my mind, anyways, maybe one of many problems. I love the fact they're doing this, and if we have a government that we can trust, then this is phenomenal. If we do not have a government that we can trust, then like when AFL and some of these other groups sue the government, like the Biden administration, like they have. Now, we won a bunch of those cases, thank God, but not all of them. So, I feel like there's a chance where we're trying to stop them from doing something that's not good. And if we lose the case for whatever reason, then kind of sucks, right? But if you didn't win the case, maybe you shouldn't have brought it to begin with, right? So I don't know. Hard to say. There's a lot to be said there. But paying the government back for damages, if they can sue it back on you, could be extraordinarily expensive. But it would stop a lot of these illegal lawsuits, right? Or some of these crap ones, junk suits. So, right? 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I feel like sky's the limit on this one. Trump just sent federal, let's try this again. Trump just set federal employee credit card limits to $1. I love that. So it's like, no, we're not going to cancel all the cards. We're curious to see who's using what it just bounced on. All right, what were you trying to buy and why? And we're going to find out how many of these cards are being used at like nail salons and stuff like that. You watch. This is where most of these cards are being used. I say most. Sorry, that's probably not true. Most of these cards are probably used at Staples and crap like that. But, we'll see. I'm sure there's a lot of waste, abuse, maybe fraud, but probably waste and abuse is going to be the biggest category, hands down. An individual named Brianna Morello, depending on who and what and how, they posted this. DHS announced the termination of collective bargaining for the transportation security officers with TSA, according to Fox Business. 86% of U.S. airports have more TSA personnel engaged in full-time union work instead of conducting screening duties. Now, I don't exactly know what union work is, but it sounds like some of it's through these collective bargaining issues and managing that. So we've got a whole slew of people that we're paying that aren't actually doing the thing we pay them to do, which is to protect us and keep weapons from going into planes and stuff like that. And like, there's a guy in Australia that walked onto a plane with a shotgun. I'm like, how does that even happen? Like, I get you don't probably have to take all your clothes off in Australia when you fly like we do here. You can pretty much walk through the thing naked. So, make sure nothing's taped to you. But yeah, just walking on with a shotgun, like, metal detectors or anything? Really? Damn. Like, like Israel, they got dogs. I figure maybe in Australia they got like crocodiles on like leashes, like drug sniffing crocodiles or something. They might. It could happen. Who knows? But 432 federalized airports, 374 have fewer than 200 TSA officers available for screening functions. So we're paying gobs of money and not getting, again, like the Department of Education, which we're going to do a fun thing right here. A department that has existed since 1980 that literally wastes money like it's going out of style. And we literally are falling further and further behind with education. This is obviously doesn't work. And anybody that says or argues differently, it's like, look, let's look at the facts. This isn't working. We're doing worse. We pay more per capita than any nation on the planet, and we have the worst scores. Something's not right. The idea of continuing to fund this is stupid. It doesn't work. Let's try something different. Let's push it back to the states. And that's what it all comes down to. I'm going to play this at slightly increased speed because it's 8:39 minutes. This is Ms. McMahon, having a wonderful discussion with Fox. And I thought she covered a lot of great ground. And they literally are talking about removing the Department of Education, which is freaking crazy if you think about it, right? At least I think it is. Check it out.
President Trump preparing to make good on one of his biggest campaign promises, dismantling the Department of Education with the help of Education Secretary Linda McMahon.
I want to bring the schools back to the states. And, I've said it 100 times. We're ranked at the bottom of the list, and yet we spend more. We're ranked number one for cost per student. We're ranked at the bottom of the list in education. I want the states to run schools, and I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
In her first interview since being confirmed, Education Secretary Linda McMahon joins us now. Good morning to you, Madam Secretary.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Thank you for coming on. So we've heard that he could be signing this executive order today to abolish the Department of Education. Is that coming today?
I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of the president. I think you'd have to check with the White House. I think he certainly intends to sign the order, and we've talked about it. He's made it crystal clear since the time he was running for president that this is his intent. His intent is to provide quality education through school choice to all students. And he wants to make sure that education is back at the state level where it belongs, that our local school boards, that governors and teachers and parents are really the ones that are involved mostly in their children's education.
What exactly would school choice look like? Would he give X amount of dollars that's spent on every student back to the parents? They could choose private school. They could go to any school in the surrounding area or in their county or in their state? What would it look like?
I think there are various programs that we would look at. Scholarship programs. We could use voucher systems to go to different schools. I think there are a lot of ways to provide opportunities to children that are stuck in failing schools. No child should be stuck in a failing school.
Do you know for sure he's definitely going to abolish the Department of Education?
He's been very clear about that. He couldn't be any more clear when he said he wants me to put myself out of a job.
How did you feel about that?
But, I think there is definitely a role for education to make sure that as we move education back to the states, that we are providing the tools for the governors, for the teachers, that we can provide them with research to show best practices. Because the president's goal really is to see our scores go up. When 70% of our students cannot read with proficiency, that's just incredibly difficult to swallow, and he's just not going to accept it.
Especially when the schools are focused so much on other things like DEI and telling our children they can transition. I want my child to learn about math and science and reading, because if you look at the stats, we're well below in all of these. And President Trump says we spend more money than any other country, yet we're one of the lowest.
Absolutely, and that's intolerable. So we really have to make sure that our teachers are focused on teaching basics. Let's get back to the science of reading. Let's teach it phonetically. We've seen great results in Louisiana, Mississippi, other states that have put programs in place. Their scores come up. They're
Iowa,
rising.
Indiana,
yes.
the president was talking about.
Yeah.
So if you give this money back to the states, how will you be able to determine what they're teaching, curriculum?
The Department of Education does not set curriculum.
What does the department do?
The department actually does a lot of research. We oversee a lot of programs. We make sure that funds are getting into the states that are by statute, but those can flow in different ways back to the states.
Do we need this department?
No. We don't.
What about your employees, 4,100 employees? What are they saying? I'm sure they're fearful they're going to lose their jobs.
Well, I think anytime there's talk about shutting a department down, the employees that are there are concerned about their jobs, but they're good off-ramps for them. And in a country where we right now have over 8 million openings in jobs, I think there'll be a lot of places for them to go. We'd like to help them get there.
I want to talk to you about what this means for our teachers. I'm a daughter of a teacher for 33 years. My sister's a teacher in Charleston, South Carolina. And I want to talk about what it means for the parents, because I know you want to give the parents you want to make them the primary decision makers. But first, let's start with the unions. What does this mean for the unions? Because Randy Weingartner, head of AFT, says trying to abolish the Department of Education, which, by the way, only Congress can do, which is true, you would need 60 votes, sends a message that the president doesn't care about opportunity for all kids. Maybe he cares about it for his own kids or his friends' kids or his donors' kids, but not all kids.
Well, I can tell you, when I've talked to teachers who tell me that of every dollar that comes into the classroom, they spend about 47 cents of that dollar complying, with regulations. And the president wants to release teachers to be innovative in their classrooms. Let teachers teach. Let them do what they like to do. There is no one-size-fits-all for education, and those teachers that are in the classroom feeling that energy every day, knowing what this group of kids can do better, that group of kids can do better, let's let them do what they do.
What would you say would you have any control over the superintendents that are more woke or the schools that are more woke, or would that be up to the governors of those states?
It's really up to the governors. There is some federal funding that does come into some schools through different contracts. And so we, the Department of Education, before I got there, but after President Trump was elected, have stripped out DEI from a lot of the contracts and taken away that kind of particular funding.
Without the Department of Education, what would this mean for the students and for the parents?
I think we will see scores go up. Our nation's report card, which is called NAEP, which came out the end of January, is what showed how far down. Since the Department of Education was established in 1980, we've spent over $1 trillion to see our scores continue to go down. We are not doing something right, and it's time to change it.
Would it affect the teachers if there's no more Department of Education?
I don't know. Teachers will be there in the classrooms. They're hired locally. They are supervised on a local basis. The Department of Education doesn't have anything to do, with hiring teachers. That's all done at a local level. And I think teachers should be, rewarded good teachers should be rewarded. And I think that teaching is one of the most noble professions in our country. I got my certificate to teach when I was in college, and then my career took a different path. But teaching is so noble, and there are so many excellent, good teachers. And we want to encourage them and support them and stand in their corner.
Madam Secretary, you've seen in the news, Barnard College, Columbia, all of these universities at a high level allowing anti-Semitism on their campuses for so long. Now they're trying to push back. The president of Barnard wrote the op-ed or the letter saying that this is not going to be tolerated any longer. But she's been there before October 7th. And now we're hearing from her in this capacity. What are your thoughts about this, and what can we do about it?
Well, I can tell you the president has said he's absolutely not going to allow federal funds to be going to these universities that continue to allow anti-Semitism on its campus. And that's just something we're not going to do. And I think there are a lot of different ways to look at that. And that funding supports research. It supports many other programs that the universities offer. So if universities like Columbia, and the Department of Education has launched 5 investigations now into different universities to make sure that they are not allowing anti-Semitism. Kids ought to be able to go to college, and parents ought to feel good about their kids going to college, knowing they're in a safe environment. And to allow this kind of unrest, this is not about freedom of speech. We're talking about violence on campus.
I know.
And college presidents need to call in the police right away. They have to quell these uprisings and not allow faculty to be attacked or other students to be attacked. So we're at Barnard.
One last question, DOGE. The president saying to Elon Musk, provide the numbers. We're very grateful to you, wealthiest man in the world, helping us to go through and cut out the waste and the fraud. But now it's up to the department heads, the cabinet secretaries to decide. How are you using that information to run the Department of Education?
Well, we surely welcome DOGE to come in. I've looked at it as an audit. And, when I was in the private sector, I think a lot of stuff is always turned up when you do a good, solid audit. So I welcome the DOGE folks that are in. We meet with them almost daily. I've been very appreciative of the things that they have shown us, some of the waste, and we're reacting to that.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing for our country.
Thank you.
And your husband, just such legends, and then now you're working for the President of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Ainsley.
Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, good interview, I thought, anyways. And so, yeah, tackling this problem that's been around since 1980 is well, much easier said than done. Trump puts new limits on Elon Musk's authority amid backlash to DOGE's cuts. Now, this is NBC News. Essentially, here's the skinny. They're spinning it that there's a riff between Musk and Trump. There's not. They get along great. I think a lot of this came from the fact that Trump was like, all right, well, let's do this. Let's turn up the pace, or I forget whatever he said, like what his tweet was. And so Musk was like, all right. And he started doing more stuff. And so Trump's pulling it back a little bit, which is cool. And I think Musk was like, all right, whatever. Yeah, I'm cool. There, I'll give you recommendations. Here's what we see. Here's some places we see problems, some anomalies. And then let the department heads, or the cabinet heads, more importantly, or more specifically, to make the decisions of who gets cut. And that's just good. It's just going to mean that the people that get cut are people that suck, aren't performing. When we talked about it, you shave off a couple people from a department this week, and next week I'm going to ask you to shave 2 more. And eventually you just find the people that suck the worst, get rid of them, and eventually we've got a lean and mean group of people that can take care of business, which is really what the purpose of having all these employees is. Not to, have some sort of opinion about politics because they work in the government. I don't give a crap what you think. I need help getting my driver's license dealt with, right? Like, who cares? Federal watchdog warns fraudsters diverting taxpayer money from Medicare and Medicaid. Not a huge amount of money, but they're finding these types of things all over the place. And what's most important, it's $27 million. It's not that much. What's most important is this is $27 million that likely very few people are going to get anymore. That's what's important. This is literally starving people of power from power. Money is one of those things. So we're making a big difference, actually. Trump yanks $400 million from Columbia over allegations of anti-Semitism. This is a place where the Jewish students are not necessarily safe to go to class. They're being harassed. They're being intimidated. They're being attacked in some cases. And Trump's like, you're not doing anything to protect these students. This is unacceptable. We are pulling federal funding. So Columbia is probably going to file a lawsuit or something crazy. Georgia lawmakers pass a bill allowing Trump and others to recover costs of election meddling. This is going to hurt for them. Georgia Senate passed a bill that is going to allow them, like it just said, the bill's passed unanimously by state legislators Thursday that would enable compensation from counties for attorneys' fees and other legal costs in criminal cases in which a prosecutor has been disqualified, like Fannie. So if she's been disqualified, that means we get all of our money back from you for having all this nonsense happening when this wasn't even a qualified individual. Oh, Fannie's getting destroyed, and frankly, it's delicious. Absolutely love it. Federal judge in Minnesota has found MyPillow CEO and Trump ally Mike Lindell in contempt of court for failing to provide discovery and financial documents in the defamation case brought by voting machines company Smartmatic. Kind of an interesting case. I don't know what's up. I know I went to two of Mike Lindell's election integrity things, and I'll be honest, I wasn't real thrilled with him. I felt it was kind of a waste of money. I felt like he got a lot of us out there, but he didn't necessarily do anything more than just get a bunch of people together to talk about something. He talked a lot of talk. I even flew in the drone on the one thing, and that ended up not really happening at all. So, I don't know, there was a lot of stuff that was kind of weird. Again, I like MyPillow a lot, and I think Mike Lindell is a dude that put his money where his mouth is, and I appreciate that as well. But it was weird how it kind of played out. So I don't know. I don't know how to necessarily take that. But we've got, of course, a wonderful sponsor, MyPillow. MyPillow.com/OTF. That's MyPillow.com/OTF. Got one of these cool Mike Lindell commercials. I think they're always so fun. We'll play one of these, and then, we'll talk a little bit about it. We'll try to play this.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows, only $14.98. Queens, $18.98. King size, only $1 more. Body pillows, $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Dude, that right there is the reason. The standard pillows, man. Those things are rock stars. Love them. Love those pillows. Go to MyPillow.com/OTF. That's MyPillow.com/OTF. You're going to see all sorts of great products as well as what he's talking about. You can get his MyCross too. They've got 2 different versions, men and women's. They've got one that's kind of got more of a white inlet and then blackish on the outside, or dark or different on the outside. And then this one black and silver. It's all sterling silver. It's good stuff, though. So save 30% on that. Best towel you're ever going to use, you're going to find right here. Of course, the best pillow. I like the original the most. I'm just anal when it comes to pillow. I don't know. Probably not the best way to say it. I'm neckle. I'm not really anal because I don't use my pillow on my butt. If I did, though, it'd probably be awesome. Whatever the case is. The 2.0 is awesome. The cooling, I can't beat. I just didn't like the fill. I like the fill on this one way better. It's just where I'm having issues. It made a big problem for me. Frankly, it affected my overall numbers, too. Mike Lindell used to like me, and let's say that's not the case anymore. Pet blankets, too. You guys got that new couch, got that old pet. They don't understand the difference between don't get up on the couch when you've let them do it for years. This is a good way to get around that. And, of course, the pet beds. Come to find out, too, someone told me, was it Europe or someplace crazy, they were buying this MyPillow stuff, and there is apparently quite a surcharge to get it shipped out to some of these other places. And yeah, the dog beds are stupid expensive. I appreciate the fact that you actually bought one, but holy crap. And they said the coffee, too, was stupid expensive. Wow. So yeah, probably works better if you're in the United States, but certainly that's the case. You're going to get 2 free MyPillows with an order over $100. All you got to do is use the coupon code OTF. Go to MyPillow.com/OTF. That's MyPillow.com/OTF. Get the best night of sleep you've ever had. That's for sure. All right, what do we got? We got some more world stuff going on. A lot of world stuff going on. First off, Syria has been plunged into a civil war as the new government opens fire on civilian homes. I assume these are civilians of power, but damn, kind of. There's only 8 seconds, I think, but shucks. Dude, you don't want to be inside of that building. That's for sure. I may not be an expert in war, but that sucks balls. Here's Donald Trump talking about what's going on with Iran, because things are about to get serious over there. They're not handing off the Hamas, or anyways, it's not handing off the troops or the prisoners like they're supposed to. And Trump is running out of patience and trying to push this forward faster because the deep state's wanting to drag this out.
It did start. I mean, think of what happened. Inflation, you have the war with Ukraine and Russia, that wouldn't have happened. October 7th would have never happened. Israel, they had no money. Iran had no money. Iran was stone cold broke, and now they have a lot of money. But then that's going to be the next thing you'll be talking about is Iran. What's going to happen with Iran? And there'll be some interesting days ahead. That's all I can tell you. You know, we're down to final strokes with Iran. That's going to be an interesting time. And we'll see what happens. But we're down to the final moments. We're at final moments. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. I think that I would have had a deal within 1 month after the rigged election of 2020. They were all set to make a deal. And then when I lost, they saw this person who's a stupid person, very stupid person. And they said, let's not make a deal. And they were right. He took the sanctions off. They became rich under Biden. They went from having no money to having $300 billion. All in a short period. It's oil. Oil builds up fast. It's a nice living if you have a nice oil well. And they do. They have a lot of nice oil wells, right? So anyway, it's going to be a big thing. It's an interesting time in the history of the world, but we have a situation with Iran that something's going to happen very soon, very, very soon. You'll be talking about that pretty soon, I guess, and hopefully we can have a peace deal. You know, I'm not speaking out of strength or weakness. I'm just saying I'd rather see a peace deal than the other, but the other will solve the problem.
Hopefully at some point they figure out how to stop the noise that's happening in the background. I don't know if it sounds like somebody typing on a keyboard on the same table where this camera is set up. It's the vibration's annoying, but whatever. Yeah, Trump is kicking some ass. NATO was created to counter the Soviet Union, later the Warsaw Pact. Right, that's what NATO was created for. Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact ended in 1991. NATO has been obsolete for 34 years. Kind of think about that for a second. We've got this giant NATO, and right now we're ganging up on one country. Not the Soviet Union, not the Warsaw Pact, but Russia. One country. That's kind of effed up. I mean, I get that we've been told they're bad guy, but we got all these countries that are ganging up on one country. Why? Again, I know I get the Ukraine thing, but that's actually our fault. I mean, if we really want to get into history, but what are we so pissed off about with Russia? What did they do more than that anyways? With the country that used to be part of their whole thing, and obviously a little bit of a civil war happening. Something I don't understand. I'm only going to play like a minute of this. I thought this was very, very weird. So this is, I guess, this was an AP live Macron holding briefing after EU emergency summit on defense and Ukraine spending. And here's kind of what we see. We see a cameraman set up behind, I assume, people that are important in some way, shape, or form. And he's literally focusing on what they're typing and just grabbing screen grabs of what people are doing on their phones. What is this cameraman doing? So that, to me, strikes me as strange, basically spying on people that are in positions of power. Now he doesn't want anyone to see what he's recording, which I assume makes it a little more challenging, but he's probably so good at what he does. So this is very strange. And again, AP's posting this. I assume since it's Associated Press, even though it says AFP, American Free Press, or what does that stand for? Yeah, so these people are literally spying for the deep state. I mean, I'm saying it. I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call a spade a spade. That's what I'm going to do. Oops, I'm going to have to actually turn this off, though. Now, let's do that. Oh, and let's click back where we should be. There we go. Donald Trump truth this out. South Africa is being terrible. Plus, to longtime farmers in the country. They are confiscating their lands and farms, and much worse than that, a bad place to be right now, and we are stopping all federal funding. To go a step further, any farmer with family from South Africa seeking to flee the country for reasons of safety will be invited to the United States of America with a rapid pathway to citizenship. This process will begin immediately. It's kind of funny how we're doing the exact same thing the Democrats were doing with Haiti and a whole lot of other, Afghanistan, a whole lot of other places. Here we are doing it again, but kind of have to, I guess, don't we? Right? So that's how the Democrats felt too, by the way. Exactly the same. I don't know. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. I'm not calling it a bad thing. I'm just saying it's kind of strange. War on Eastern Europe. This is a stupid war. Let's see. This is talking to Viktor Orban. You're going to have to read some subtitles, but I guess I could read it to you. Nah, we'll play it out.
Elnök úr, éppen úton vagyunk Párizsba, ma Emmanuel Macron francia elnökkel fog találkozni. Mit vár a találkozótól?
Van egy alapvető változás. Az amerikaiak eddig a háború oldalán álltak, most meg a béke oldalára álltak. Én azt szeretném megtudni, hogyha 3 év alatt nem tudták a háborúzó felek legyőzni Oroszországot és győzelemre segíteni Ukrajnát. Úgyhogy az amerikaiak is a háború táborban voltak. Most az amerikaiak már nincsenek ott, tehát a háborúpárti tábor sokkal gyengébb. Most miért gondolják, hogy ugyanezt a háborút meg tudják nyerni? Én erre szeretnék egy választ kapni. Mitől észszerű a francia, illetve a háborúpárti álláspont?
Basically calling out the fact that the deep state / Europe can't possibly win this war because we couldn't win it. We couldn't shut Russia down with America's help. Now that America's not involved, what are they going to do? Because, yeah, we pretty much do have the best weapons, hands down. England's got some good stuff. Germany's got some decent stuff. France got some decent stuff. But, I mean, come on. We're the ones that spend ridiculous amounts of money. Meloni, Italy's prime minister or president, whatever. She's a prime minister. She is giving Ukraine NATO security without membership. And this is a weird thing and probably something the United States isn't going to go for. And I don't really know why she's not going to put any of her troops on the ground. That's for sure. But she's like, let's just say we'll protect you NATO style without making you a member of NATO. I don't get what that's all about. Now, this is Bloomberg posting it. So maybe there's a funny translation in here, or they're just kind of taking things out of context. It's a different thing than entering NATO, but implies extending the coverage that NATO countries have also to Ukraine, Meloni said. So kind of seems like, maybe it translates funny. I don't know. Again, this is very strange because just like yesterday, she was super cool. Oh yeah, I was supposed to play this in relation to the next song. I gotta kill it. I gotta cut it. But so good. Wanted to play the whole song, but this isn't a Friday show. It's not what it's. Well, it is a Friday show, but it's not. It's not the music show. Donald Trump truth is, based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now, I am strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. To Russia and Ukraine, get to the table right now before it is too late. Thank you. I also think this is a reminder to Russia, like, dude, finish up, like, get your boundaries where you need them to be, and then we're going to lock them down, so hurry up. We're running out of time. This was posted at 8:17, which, of course, everybody in the Q world's like, oh, my God, 17. Oh, 17. And again, that's cool. 17 is good. We're talking a lot about it. We've taken ownership of that number, I think, in Q. Who knows? All the same. Here's Trump talking about, what's he talking about on this one? Ukraine. Speaking on Ukraine, he says, finding it more difficult to deal with Zelensky. He's getting tired of that mofo.
I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. They don't have the cards. As you know, we're meeting in Saudi Arabia on sometime next week, early. And we're talking, would I find that in terms of getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the cards. I mean, they're bombing the hell out of them right now. And I put a statement in, a very strong statement. Can't do that. You can't do that.
Mr. President,
we're trying to help them, and Ukraine has to get on the ball and get a job done. I'm fine.
Oh, it's killing me. The dude typing, just killing me. Ugh. Did a lot of that. Same guy. Natural Secretary Advisor Waltz is set to meet with Ukraine next week. They have a little chit-chat about what the plan is. I kind of like how Trump's letting people sort of speak for themselves, even though we know he's just jammed his hand up their ass and he's mouthing the words, if you will. I'm not trying to be disrespectful because these guys are brilliant people, and I think we've got the right people, but everybody knows Trump's agenda. And so, yeah, I don't mean that like, yeah, they're just puppets. I mean, they're their own people. I'm not trying to disrespect.
The president has been crystal clear, and he's been clear to all sides. The fighting has to stop. Both sides need to get to the table. We had a good engagement. Both leaders have said only President Trump could do so, and only he has been able to do so. We had an initial engagement with the Russians. The Ukrainians had a great opportunity to bind our economies together through that mineral deal. Unfortunately, that didn't go so well, but we think we're going to get things back on track. Secretary Rubio, myself, and the Ukrainian delegation will be meeting in Saudi Arabia next week to get these talks back on track, get a ceasefire in place, and drive peace home.
Kind of a trip. Isn't that almost Ukraine? It's not yellow. I get it. It's not at least crazy yellow. It's got seems some in there, but isn't that close to? Anyway, I don't know if it's another country too. Whatever the case is. Beautiful tie. Lovely, lovely artwork. Court orders South Korean President Yoon released from jail for his criminal trial over martial law. They just wanted to lock this bastard up. And the more I follow the story, the more I'm pretty sure that he was a good guy. And he stopped their taking over of the government. He got in big trouble for doing it, lost his presidency in the process. But nonetheless, he, I think, is probably a decent dude. Again, is he perfect? Is he good? I'm not going to vouch for this guy, but I kind of think the deep state's been behind shutting him down. Finally, some time for Crybaby. I just wanted to make sure we had an appropriate spotlight for this wonderful Crybaby. First off, this isn't where he's crying, but this is where he's talking about how he's a Zionist, which is a weird word, very loaded word these days.
No one in Canada should ever be afraid to call themselves a Zionist. I am a Zionist.
I'm surprised he didn't do like a hand gesture covering one of his eyes right after he did that. I wanted to actually imitate what that would look like, but I knew how badly that would play. This lady's kind of funny. I don't know. It's got some cuss words in it and whatnot, so please, skip ahead or just accept the fact that I'm about to use the F word, I think, more than once. This pagan person posted, and she's apparently a moose puncher. Or a honker, I guess. You guys probably prefer honk of the Canadian geese versus the punch of the punch a moose and find out, which doesn't go well for the human ever, by the way. Humans and moose don't get along. Well, moose don't get along with anybody, from what I understand, at all. Anyway, Pagan says, I'm so fucking embarrassed as a Canadian. We are all living in a fucking clown world where our greatest ally considers our so-called leader a little bitch. Our leaders tell us the carbon tax is more important than food and heat. We need a fucking election now. Canadian wants an election. News at 11. I don't know. Maybe I used that story because I enjoyed saying the F word that many times. That's entirely possible. It is. Here's Crybaby Trudeau.
On a personal level, I've made sure that every single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. And that's why I'm here to tell you all that we got you. Even in the very last days of this government, we will not let Canadians down today and long into the future.
You know what's going to be funny is because it's going to come to a point where his acting skills are not going to be able to keep moving, right? So at some point, he's going to come out on camera, literally going to put down a cutting board, grab a knife and an onion, and just start cutting it. And he's going to be like, so here's the thing. When I was talking to that tax collector the other day, like whatever, I don't know, whatever stupid thing he was going to talk about. But yeah, he's Crybaby Trudeau. A day after offering Canada a 1-month reprieve on punishing nearly across the board 25% tariffs. Yeah, punishing. President Trump has threatened new tariffs as soon as Friday on Canadian lumber and dairy products. Ouch. Canada has been ripping us off for years on lumber and on dairy products. So yeah, this is going to all go down a bunch. He's going to charge up to 250% tariff. Oh, boy. So Trump's like, here's the thing, Canada. You want to go to war? You want to act like you're tough, like you got your big boy britches on there, crybaby? Okay, let's do that. Let's put a 250% tariff on dairy and lumber. They're two biggest resources, possibly, that you sell to us. We're not going to buy it from you anymore, are we? Nope. We'll be getting ours from America here. That's right. Now, again, I'm not trying to start any shit with my Canadian friends. I actually think it sucks that we're all going to have to fight through this because this is going to have effects on things like dollar, the Canadian dollar, and whether you guys like the Queen anymore, whatever, stuff like that too. And it affected that hockey game. We lost. That sucked. But, I mean, you guys kind of invented hockey, I think. You guys are generally pretty damn good at hockey. I mean, I'm not surprised we lost, you know? Exclusive. U.S. CDC plans to study into vaccines and autism. That's we'll see. We'll see. Kennedy's supposedly getting behind this. This is, of course, from sources familiar with the situation. They told Reuters, so we can't trust any of this. And I almost wonder if this is meant to like get Kennedy in trouble, but this is definitely one of the things that he talked about doing. And it's not necessarily vaccines, which is where I think they're spinning the story. The fact of this, and this is how the deep state does this type of spinning, the fact is that we're actually wondering if it's the schedule per se. May not necessarily be the vaccines. I'm never going to say I'm pro-vaccine. I'm not. I'm definitely not. But these things are, not quite as bad. But I want people to understand that the vaccines and autism could be related from the schedules. That's what could be. All right, so breaking. Republicans in Iowa are proposing a bill, House File 712, which bars a vaccine from being distributed, sold, or administered in Iowa unless the vaccine manufacturer waives their immunity clause. That's kind of an interesting take on this. I like this. So it's like, you can't do it unless we can sue you for damage. And I'm curious to see how that affects vaccine distribution. Will the vaccine companies be like, yeah, we're not going to offer it to you guys? Okay. That'll be an interesting direction to go because that will be telling as well. Now, whether they can pass this, that's another question entirely. SBF's crisis manager, he quit. Apparently, this guy was on Tucker Carlson. I thought I had the bit of audio, but I don't. It was in there. It wasn't that good, so I think that's why I didn't keep it. But he was on with Tucker. After that, their crisis manager quit because it caused more crisis. It was funny as he was talking about how Diddy's been very nice to him. He's been very nice to everybody in there. But yeah, they're literally all hanging out in the same place with like murderers and rapists and stuff. And him and Diddy, Oh, he talked about chess too. He was surprised how many uber criminals are actually really good at chess. That just blew him away. There you go. That's pretty much the summation of that. His hair doesn't look nearly as... Can I say good? I don't think good's really fair on that at all. But it looks nastier, that's for sure. Yeah, there you go. It's like, there you go. Oh, I do have it. Beautiful. Let's play it. Because, this is what friends do.
Are you hanging with Diddy? I think he's in there with you.
He is. And I don't know, he's been kind. I've made some friends. It's a weird environment. It's sort of a combination of a few other high profile cases and then a lot of, ex-gangsters or sort of, alleged ex-gangsters.
Yes. Definitely alleged. So what's Diddy like?
Obviously I've only seen one piece of him, which is, Diddy in prison. And, he's been kind to people in the unit. He's been kind to me. It's also, it's a position no one wants to be in. Obviously he doesn't, I don't, as you said, it's kind of a soul crushing place for the world in general. And, what we see are just the people that are around us on the inside rather than who we are on the outside.
Oh, I'm sure. And you're two of the most famous prisoners in the world in the same unit. What do the armed robbers think?
Well, it's a really interesting question. And of course, some of them are, I think are thinking like, wow, this is sort of a big opportunity, to meet people they wouldn't otherwise get to meet, which is, it shocked me the first time I heard that. Right. It makes sense from their perspective, but boy, is that not how I think about prison. Um,
Sorry to laugh. No, that's such a good. I bet it's not how you think about it. No,
it's not. And laughing's all you can do sometimes. You know, there's no better alternative. They're good at chess. That's one thing I learned. Like, you know, former armed robbers who don't speak English, and you know, probably didn't graduate middle school, are a surprising number of them are like fairly good at chess. Like, you know, I'm not saying they're grandmasters, but like, you know, I lose games to them all the time. I was not expecting that.
Wow. So how is it? That's so interesting. How has that changed your views?
Well, you know, I would.
So I can understand why his crisis manager was like, "Oh shit," because that. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know. That didn't go well. It didn't go bad. He seems very affable. He's a very likable individual, right? Like, I want to like him, but what he's saying is so not playing well to a giant population, especially all the people that want him to burn in hell for what he's done, or, you know, all the money he's stolen, which he stole gobs of money. Finally, last story. We got a fun one here. Death knell sign that the writing's on the wall for the radioactive MSNBC star Trump wants off the air. This lady, she's apparently being kicked out. Yeah, Nicole Wallace. You probably heard of her name. Yeah, relation is there. She's facing a ratings reckoning. So her ratings as of from a year ago, when you compare to what she had a year ago to what she has right now, she has 25% of what her audience was. This is the key reason why I want so many of you guys, all of you to understand, but so many of you to improve. When you look at what the deep state's saying, when you look at what like MSNBC is saying, and you're like, I can't believe they're saying this. And then you talk about it and you give it a voice and you give it reach. You're giving them reach. They can't do it on their own. Their numbers on their own suck. One of the best things to do to any egomaniacal individual, I mean this as huge advice to everybody. If somebody's egomaniacal, if somebody's just hardcore, like it's all about them all the time, the worst thing you can do to them, to hurt them, without, you know, being an absolute dick, is ignore them. Pretend they don't exist. That is the worst thing you can do to them. Something to keep in mind, because these people are dying and withering all on their own. All we need to do is look another direction and stop paying attention to them. And then we've won that battle. And yes, Nicole Wallace, bye-bye. You will be no longer viewable. Got a great music show coming up here in a little bit. Looking forward to being a part of that with you guys. It's a very cool time right now. Actually, I just looked at the clock. It's 12:34. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very interesting time always. Want to remind you guys, too, of our merchandise. I think I've got enough pictures now. I had an individual send me a bunch of them, but we've got some good pictures coming up. So thank you for that. But for merch, you want to check this out. Yeah, too many things happening right now. All said, we've got some great stuff. You go to truththread.shop. That's truththread.shop. Got some great products. If you can send pictures, like when you get the confirmation email that your order's been received, respond to that email with pictures of you with the merch on. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to, but it's going to be used in videos. Kind of like, I don't know, and we know he does the best ones, I think. Frankly, mine aren't even close to that good, but yeah, I just like to kind of show you guys off and play a cool little song in the background, and there you go. Got the wonderful hats, which I very much like. And the cups, they got these Donald Trump ones with like President 45, 47. Kind of looks like Jack Daniels, very cool. Got the regular On the Fringe stuff, and then, yeah, the Great Awakening. Are you ready for it? I hope so. We got a little bit of the back. Oh, this actually isn't one of them. On the back, though, there's always some extra fun stuff. And that's the Dan Radio Style On the Fringe, the OTF flag. It's very cool stuff. So anyway, a lot of good stuff. We've got the 5G warfare. We've got the, the 611, 911. Got both of those. So inside job, and then 611 was the fight, Ephesians thing. Of course, along with the 5G warfare. There's stuff on the back, there's stuff on the front. We've got them pretty much in all the same things like sweatshirt, long sleeve, tank top, short sleeve, pretty much got them all. So all you got to do is check it out. Important thing to remember in the big picture, folks, where we go one, we go all. This is On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.